Good morning. I was pleased to have a chance to interview for my job here in November 1969 and was hired a month later. The thing that caused me to make my decision to come here after they had offered me a job here was that we were coming from about 125 miles away, and we'd move our children then. It was a new area for them, and I wanted us to be someplace that would be a good place to raise children. And then I knew from some people that had a family relative that lived here, and he knew of Chore Time, and he said, I think it's a good company. It was just a pretty tiny company at the time. So when I came here, the company had about 70 to 90 employees perhaps at Chore Time, and we, I think, did something like $6 million a year in sales. And the very earliest time in my tenure here was in purchasing. And back then, where there were no computers, you had your adding machine and calculator and that, and all of our inventory control and everything was done by penciling it in. And inventory time was a terrible time of year, trying to get all these things put together. But one of the things I noticed, I didn't know at first because I'd never met Mr. Brimbeck before until I was hired in. And I came to realize rather quickly that here was a man who started a company with a great vision, and the vision he had was to feed the people of the world economically and to make the very best equipment that was possible in the different areas. So I think at the time I joined, we had some air system, flex auger, Model C, and maybe a few other things, some nesting things and things like that, and it began to grow and grow and grow. And by the time I retired, we were doing something in the neighborhood of 150 to 160 million a year. So things really changed. And the most drastic change I saw in the time I was here is when the computer age came. We had hired General Dynamics, and we had all their computers, and it did not work. We trashed the computers. We then went to an IBM system, and things began to develop, and we got our group in computer organizing and controlling all this, which I appreciated. And it made the work so much easier, but it made us able to do a better job. But I'm really thankful for this company because Mr. Brimbeck was a man with such high integrity, and what he said you could believe, and that we saw the company grow with good people. And I remember once he was asked, did you expect this company to ever be as large as it is today? At that time, it was much smaller than now. He said, no, I really didn't. And his goal was never to make a lot of money. He said, my goal was to feed people and to have a good company and to provide employment for people. And he said, if you do those things to surround yourself with good people, then you're going to be successful more than likely. So I just really appreciate the company and still do. And I give credit to you now, how beautiful your grounds look, and how this place not only is a good place to work, but it looks like a good place to work too. Thank you.
Hello. If I could paint you a picture of what this place looked like back when I was hired in 1975, you would have to take an eraser and erase out the Cage building. You would have to erase out the International building. You would have to erase everything between the parking to the back of the parking lot. All of that was gone. And you would have to erase everything on the west side of 15. All there was Chore Time and Brock. Chore Time was on this side of the parking lot. Brock was on the other. There was no such thing as CTB Inc. CTB came later. If you walked into Chore Time, you would have found 8 girls working in the office. And over at Brock, there were only 2. The only computers we knew about were the kinds that took up a room this size. And all of our invoices were typed, if you can imagine that. They had those old 4 or 5 part self-carbon sets. And just think how accurate you would have to be, because they did not let invoices go out of here that did not look professional. And when they typed all of the export documents and all of the bills of lading, those had to be error-free. You could not even have a corrected error. And I can remember Elsie Free. If she was working on an export document, you didn't want to be anywhere around her. I was in accounts receivable, and we posted the checks every day by hand, pen and ink. Then we sent them by courier to the bank for processing, and the bank would send us our new printout the next day. When we started getting laptops, as people got upgraded laptops, they would pass their old laptop down. And sometime in the 90s, somebody passed by my office with one of those old compact computers and said, "Do you want this?" And with that, I leaped into the computer age. We didn't have access to the internet. We didn't do that for years. All of the work we did was offline. And just a couple of fun memories that I have. There was no such thing as a 401k, but we did have profit sharing. And Shortime and Brock paid the profit sharing every year that I worked here for 26 years. And the fun thing was, though, you had to work here for 12 years before you were fully vested in that profit sharing account. And that's one of the reasons that I wound up working here so long. I wasn't going to let anybody have part of my profit sharing account. And one of the best memories that I can think of was our Christmas parties. And I know that anybody who was here for our Christmas party remember those very fondly. And all of the ladies would bring in their special dishes, and we would set out a feast in the plant and have a wonderful meal together. And that was one of the things I hated most that we had to give up with growing pains. So those were some of my treasured memories of my 26 years at Shortime.
And well, Kathy had asked me if I'd come up and maybe just reminisce a little bit over the years here at Shortime. But I did start in 1967. I was a junior in high school. I was given the opportunity to come in and learn and become a part-time draftsman. I did that through my junior and senior year in high school. Then graduated, came full-time in 68 and got drafted in 69 and then came back officially full-time again in 1973. So one of the reasons I applied here, my mother worked here at Shortime. When I came to Shortime, I think there were approximately 50 employees. And I started as a draftsman and for a few weeks a quality inspector to kind of learn the ins and outs of drafting design or blueprint designs and that type of thing. The duties of the first job is, like I say, I started as a detail draftsman and some QA inspection. Job changes through the years. Most of that was the tools of the trade. When I first walked in here, I saw just about where we are now. There used to be a drafting department, and there was these boards tipped up that had these green covers. And I asked a guy, the chief draftsman at the time I came in here with. He came in after hours to do some work, and I came in with him and asked him, "What's all those funny-looking green boards there?" He says, "Those are drafting tables." And along with those drafting tables went the templates and the mechanical pencils and the mechanical pencil lead sharpeners and templates, triangles, the whole thing. Everything was manual back then, kind of like Dick mentioned. There were no computers. And then one day the computers came along, and that was probably the biggest innovation I've seen in the technology of that field of work anyway. Was when computers came along, all the other tools disappeared. I'd make somebody a really good deal on the suitcase full of those. But computers came along. I would never believed you could do on a computer what you could do on a drafting board or a drawing board. But I've been so amazed there over the years. There's so much technology out there. And then with the website, with the internet, there's just a multitude of places you can go to help you with your job. Technology changes over the years as far as manufacturing goes. I remember when I first started, the press room out here was just rows and rows of punch presses and shears and brake presses and so forth. And today it's a couple of lasers and some turret presses and a few forming machines, and things are totally different on the manufacturing side, which also lends to the design side of things as they were, that many years back. So some of the favorite memories, most of my favorite memories have been with people I've had the privilege to work with over the years. As Dick said, Chore Time has been a group of really good people over the years. I've worked with and learned from and mentored with, the Howard Brembecks, the Eldon Hostetlers, Hot Ziggity. He was Hot Ziggity to us back then. The Randy Klauses, the Keith Sheets, the Ray Schwarzenegger's, and just to name a few over the years, were some of my really good early memories. One of my later memories, kind of a funny thing happened. Actually, a couple bosses back, a few years back, hired a new boss, and he came in and he took his turn, went around and shaking hands with people, and come into my office and sit down and said, "Let's get to know each other a little bit." We joked around, and he said, "Well, what do you like most about working at Chore Time?" I said, "Well, I live 6 blocks down the street, so it's real convenient." And I said, "I love the people here at Chore Time. We've always had great people to work with." And I lost my train of thought there. But mostly working with the people and designing product. That's what I want to do, is design product. I said, okay. So we joked around a little bit. He got up, started to leave my office, and shook my hand. He said, "Well, one more question." He said, "Well, what do you like the least about working at Chore Time?" And I thought that was kind of an odd question, so I told him. I said, "Well, most of it's training new bosses. You're number 15.
I came to CTB in kind of a different manner than most people. Actually, the sales manager and the salesman came to me and wanted me to come to work for Brock. They wanted me to be a salesman, but after interviewing with Bud Lance, who was our personnel manager at the time, he told them that I wouldn't make a salesman, and so they put me into customer service. They also told me that customer service would be a 3 to 5 year burnout. So I've been burned out for about 25 years now. As has already been said, there was no computers, no fax machines, no cell phones, no emails. Customer service processed all the orders by hand onto 3-page NCR paper. And production was run by keeping product on the shelf, which meant lots and lots of inventory. Before my time, all the body sheets and the roof panels and the hopper panels had to be drilled by hand. By the time I came, Brock had already moved across the street. They had the 500-ton and the 750 and the hopper press. Back in those days, we shipped at least 100 bins a day, on almost every day. All the invoices, as Pat already said, were typed by hand and figured by hand, and then we mailed them to the dealers. I always thought that there was an imaginary wall that ran down State Road 15. Chore Time was on the east side and run by Howard, and on Brock, the stepchild was on the west and was run by Howard's brother, Paul. At that time, I think employees would tell you that there was a real sense of being part of a family. CTB is well known for being innovators and high quality, which is evidenced by our being copied by several of our competitors. CTB has always been and continues to be a great place to work. One day I was talking to Howard about the many different books that were written on how to run a business. He said, "Roger, there's only one book that you need to run a business." And he says, "That's the Bible. If you follow the principles in the Bible, you will run your business successfully." That's what I've strived to do for the last 32 years, and it's worked really well. Congratulations, CTB, on 60 years of successful, innovative business.
Well, it brings me a great honor to be in front of, not in front, but be up here in front of the group, because when I came to Chore Time, that was in 1954, and Howard and Forrest Ramser and Ken Higgins were the 3 people involved. I was the first employed worker in the plant. That they had a few people that worked part-time that came into work, but I brought a hanging waterer. We at Chore Time were the first to introduce. I gave the idea to them, and had it patented. And Howard and I made an agreement that if I worked for $300 a month, he would pay me 1% royalty on whatever he sold. And he lived up to that. And it was something that Ken Hagins didn't agree with, and Ken Hagins left. He no longer stayed with the company after a number of years when Forrest and Howard were very successful. That the town grew so fast that the town council decided to buy this land out here where we're sitting on and build a factory. This is the back end of it. And it just thrills my heart when I sit here in front. Next birthday, I'll be 90 years old, and I was just a young man, and nothing was a barrier to me, because when I went to the patent office and told them, to my attorney, and told him I want to patent this hanging water, and he said, well, people winched stuff long before you did. And he said, why do you think you'd ever get a patent on it? And I said, because nobody else ever did. He said, how's come you don't recognize that? And so he said, well, if you want to, we had a couple of actions from the patent office. So, you know, having never taken no for an answer, I got in my car myself and flew to Chicago, drove to South Bend and flew to Chicago and on to, and the patent attorney didn't go with me. I wondered why not. When I got back, I found out why, because I took 2 samples, one with a float in it and one with the electric valve, and showed him the drawing that Max Quinn had made of this thing hanging in the chicken house, and how the people all loved it, and how much we're selling. At that time, we were already selling by the carload to Texas, trough going to Texas with the system in it, hanging water. And before I got back, when I got out there, the attorney asked me, well, what I was after, and I told him, and he said, I'll get the guy that handled your patent. And so he came up the front door, and he said, there isn't much we can talk about. And I said, I didn't come here to talk to about it. I came here to show you. Where is your spigot that I could use to demonstrate this? And so I demonstrated it. And after the first demonstration, he looked at me and he said, seeing is believing. He said, I didn't realize that this made this much difference when you hang it up and when you do all this stuff that you're demonstrating here. So what we did, went back to the office, and they wrote 14 claims on the water trough. And that just put a little bit more fire under my feet, and I kept on going with this kind of idea, and we were building a hanging feeder by the next couple of years, and I think short time is the main one in the market. So I just love to talk about it. The only people that had any other as much effect on my life is when I went to work at Creighton's and decided to work in the poultry industry, because poultry has been a good thing for my life, and John Fredericks and Howard Brembeck were great people to work for.
CTB owes its existence to the vision and perseverance of a very special group of men and women who took the risk of investing themselves and their resources in a brand new company. Among these individuals were the company's founder, Howard Brembeck, and Forrest Ramser, the company's first employee and original co-owner. The company that they established would ultimately create a better way to farm, and its innovations would result in a better way of life for people around the world. In 2002, during CTB's 50th anniversary celebration, Howard and Forrest related memories of the company's early years and shared some of their philosophy of doing business. Now, 10 years later, as the company celebrates its 60th anniversary, we can again appreciate their words and wisdom.
I start out with a simple statement that our mission, some people would call it a mission statement now, that we make no product that was not different and better than competition. We had this motto. I said it has to be doing different. But the problem I had was that there was so much other business that was, we could make feeders like and things like other manufacturers did, and we could make money doing it, and doing it the hard way. I was doing it the hard way. You have to create your own product. You had to first do your research work, development work, before you could ever make any money. At that time, there were automatic poultry feeders made, but they were all chain feeders. I didn't want to make. I said we couldn't do that. And this really disappointed most employees at the time because they thought we should make chain feeders. And I said, no, it has to be different and better. Finding people that have new ideas is not easy.
The company philosophy, and Mr. Brembeck, I'm sure, will tell you this, was to serve the industry with new, unique products. The company philosophy was never to copy a product. We never copied a product. That's what makes it difficult many times to really build a business when you have that philosophy. But it's the solid way to do it. Everything we did was kind of swimming upstream because we were so unique. We never copied anybody. We always had something new.
When you start out, you try to climb a mountain. Why, you make a lot of missteps before you find out going up this way. Well, this maybe isn't the way you get there, and so you back up and try something else. And a lot of experimenting with creating new product and thinking about different markets and like. And then creating an organization.
Poultry equipment industry was pots and pans. It wasn't the mechanized systems, because the industry was still in its infancy. And I saw the challenges, the industry starting to grow, and we knew we were going to need a mechanical feeder because the industry was growing and mechanization was so important. It's like 1952 to 1960 before really we had this mechanical feeder. In between time, we had salaries to pay and people to pay. And it was a struggle. Philosophy was, if you serve the industry will serve you.
Whatever you are able to give somebody more than they expect, it makes you feel good.
The old saying was, honesty is the best policy. Well, our philosophy is always, honesty is the only policy. Honesty will prevail, ultimately. Hard work always prevails. A good reputation is very important.
You have to have integrity if you're going to be successful on a long period. Otherwise, eventually you might get by, but eventually it's going to catch up with you. If you don't treat people right and don't make your product right, you don't back it up with service. We serve ourselves best when we serve others.
Some great speeches there by all of you. Thank you for sharing all that with us. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 60th year celebration. As anniversaries go, it is not a major one, but it does give us a chance to bring many of our people together and express gratitude to all for the hard work put forth these many years. It also gives us a chance to invite our local retirees to join us and rekindle past friendships and associations. We are glad to have all of you here. I can tell you the company has done well and continues to perform at a very high level. From humble beginnings, we are now well over $1 billion in sales with the addition of our recent acquisition, Mine Food Technologies BV. The purchase agreement of Mine is done, but the official closing is still several weeks away as we wait for the many governments around the world to approve the transaction. That is life these days. Until that time, there's not much we can really say in detail, but I will add, Mine adds an entire new dimension to our protein business and gives us the opportunity to serve our customers from grow out to processing. So we are there with our customers from beginning to end. I think you will agree it's exciting times for us ahead. But none of this would have been possible if not for our founders and the multitude of people that came before us. It is that group that provided the framework from which all else sprang forth. So I remind all of us, we stand on the shoulders of those that preceded us. The company was very fortunate to have had a core group of founders and early employees who were passionate, dedicated, and visionary. That is a combination not easily found, and we are lucky to have had them. They passed on to us not only new products, that is, products that never existed before until they designed it and developed them, but also a penchant for innovative thinking and the delight of hard work. But as important as these qualities are, it is the lasting legacy of ethical business practices and a dedication to fairness which have become core values in the company and which continues to this day to guide us and will likely outlast all of us. As a company, we are in the pursuit of becoming a great company. We just don't want to be good. We want to be great in everything that we do. Greatness starts with a fundamental belief system. We as a company want to stand for something, and that is hard work, fair play, and a respect for all. It's the value system which began with our founders and was handed down to us over the years, and to this day define us and make us who we are. What are these core values? It starts with the idea of integrity, that is, being honest and playing the game fairly, which has been with us from the very beginning and guides us to this day. Without integrity, we would be just another company, likely very average, flailing about, lost in a daily sea of pressures. Starting with that cornerstone of integrity, next came the idea of always excelling, doing your very best, and as our founders put it, giving everyone the opportunity to become their best self. Simply put, the idea here is if you're going to do a job, do it well, do it to the best of your ability, and continue to improve on it every day. It also says, through hard work, each one of us can pursue our own individual dreams. Next came the idea of dedication to new ideas, newer products, being different by design, giving our customer more so that we can make them even more successful. It's the idea of always thinking about our customers, trying to make them more productive, more profitable, and thereby serving the greater society better. It is the guiding principle to the company of always innovating. These core values have been refined and rewarded through the years, but all have now become the basic fiber to the company's value system. It is who we are. It is what guides us. It is the rudder to the company. In fact, it is the glue that binds us. It is the job of all of us, the current people in the company, to continue this legacy, to build on it, enhance it, and propel the company through the next 60 years and beyond. It is for that reason that we remind ourselves of these core values so that no one misses the point. We hand out laminated cards to everyone in the company so they are reminded daily not only of the core values of the company, but also the strategy of the company. We also post it in all of the buildings within the CT family. As you look around this room, you will see the placards with the listing of those values. Yes, I remind all of us that we truly stand on the shoulders of those that preceded us, many of which are here today. This company is indeed fortunate to have had founders who provided a set of core values that made hard work fashionable, treating people fairly a common occurrence, hiring the best people to do their very best a common practice, and always discharging all of our work with integrity. They were also smart enough to hire the best people along the way and gave them the latitude to excel. I think you will agree with me this is a rich legacy which endures and will continue to guide the next generation of CTB people. My thanks to all of you for the hard work and for being here today. Thank you. And now a special treat for you, a congratulatory message from our leader, Warren Buffett.
I'm excited about this 60th anniversary of CTB, but to tell you the truth, I'm even more excited about the years to come. I'll bet we accomplish more in the next 10 years than has been accomplished in the past 60 years, remarkable as those have been. For one thing, with our most recent acquisition, we're going to be up there at $1 billion of sales, and I'll make a very confident prediction that well before 10 years from now, we will be at well over $2 billion. It's got to be, you've got to have a good feeling about what you do at CTB. I mean, you're helping feed the world, and nothing is more important than that. And CTB has a reputation for ethical dealing, product development, straight shooting that's gotten us to where we are. But we can keep building on that more and more. It's really like a snowball rolling downhill that we just gather more and more mass, more and more force as the years go by. So congratulations on the first 60. I'll be talking to you again at the 70th, 80th, and well, who knows beyond that. It's good to have you with the company, and I couldn't feel better about being your partner. Thank you.